Well, good morning. Bonjour. So far in our meditation practice, what we have been working with really is using intention to direct our attention to a chosen object, and then using some techniques to try to sustain our attention where we have directed it. So this is working with attention, and many traditions, or several traditions of Shamata practice, actually work with this technique exclusively, just using primarily breath meditation and using attention. So the distinguishing thing about attention is that it is narrow, focused, exclusive. And so we are looking at one particular thing, and that is filling our awareness, and everything else is forgotten. Everything else is excluded. So this is the way that we add a mute switch to that chattering mind. So, as I was mentioning, so far we have been working with intention to direct our attention to a chosen object, and then using our mindfulness to focus on this single object to the exclusion of everything else. And so one of the things that is excluded is the chattering voice in our head, and this is the way that we add a mute switch to that ruminating mind by focusing on tactile sensations of the breath is what we had been focusing on. And there are traditions that use this technique all the way through the 9 stages of Shamata, more or less. There are some technical things that happen in the later stages of breath meditation so that it actually becomes a mental object rather than a tactile sensation, but that we don't need to talk about that. But Dzogchen practice and Mahamudra very quickly shifts to awareness itself. So we can say that there are two broad ways in which we know the world. Experience takes these two forms. Experience of the world takes these two forms. One is attention, and this is what we have been working with before, and the other is awareness. So the attention is exclusive, selective, focused on a single object, and awareness is all of awareness that all of these images, everything that we experience, arises within. So awareness is global, open, and receptive. So awareness, for instance, it's like the difference between, we can use eyesight, actually, the visual field, as an example of how this works. So, for instance, right now I am focused on Gwen, but as I am focused on him, I am still aware of the entire room from Emilio all the way to Christoph. And so if Emilio were to move, he would draw my attention. Because of now, my attention has shifted to what was in peripheral vision, and now what had previously, Gwen had been previously the focus of my attention, now he is in periphery. But that doesn't mean that he disappears, but he is just no longer the focus of my attention. So awareness is very similar. We can focus on individual things. For instance, I can be focused on sensations of the breath, but still peripheral awareness, I can be peripherally aware of thoughts that arise. And in fact, there are teachers who really emphasize that it's necessary to maintain peripheral awareness in order to maintain clarity of your attention as you're selectively, exclusively focused. So being aware of the big picture, all of the context in which all of these appearances, individual appearances, are rising is very important to not falling asleep as you are riveted on a single object. So anything that is new, that enters our knowing, our awareness, or anything that we know that is new, I should say, first has to come to us by way of awareness. So this is just the way that the mind works, and the brain has evolved to operate. And so anything that is new to us comes first through peripheral awareness, and then if it is deemed to be important enough or attractive enough, then conceptual attention takes this element out of all of the myriad possibilities in this room, for instance, and now chooses to just focus my attention on Stefan. And so now I am focused on Stefan, but so I have chosen this one thing to pluck out of all of the possibilities in this room. And now I focus on on Stefan's shirt, the color of blue. It has a different color, accent color on the collar and on the sleeves, etc. So I can, whatever is I come to know, first has to enter through this global, open, receptive awareness. And then what I come to know it precisely by examining it with focus, conceptual. But the interesting thing about this attention is that as it plucks this one thing out of all the possibilities of awareness, it has to abstract. It conceptualizes. So it creates something that actually doesn't exist in reality in order to give it a definition, in order to compare it with things that we already know. And so we have a broad list of experience, huge files of memories of experience, all that are known conceptually. And now this thing that Stefan's shirt, I can know because I have experience with it in the past, and I call it in English a t-shirt, a blue t-shirt, etc. Looks like primarily cotton, etc. All these things that I can know about this thing by focusing on it, but the thing that is confusing and delusional in a sense is that I believe that the thing that I have abstracted and conceptualized exists truly and in nature. But the thing that exists truly and in nature is everything that exists in global awareness. And so the function of global awareness is to know wholes, the entire context, the big picture, and how individual elements form patterns, the relationships of individual things. So this is the way that awareness operates. So it knows everything, the full context, but it knows things very imprecisely. It can't know things with a kind of definition that conceptualized attention does. So this is the way that these two ways of knowing operate together. And so the conceptual attention is very, very precise, but it creates abstractions to get this precision. The awareness knows things very imprecisely, but it knows everything all at once. So we are going to begin working with awareness. And this is the exhilarating terrain of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. So we are going to begin with a a bridge technique. So something that is going to be a transition between our familiar breath meditation and going to this very exhilarating terrain of working with mental appearances in awareness. And so we're going to begin today working with awareness of the breath. So we'll use the familiar object of the breath, but now begin to know the breath by way of awareness rather than attention. And the first technique that we are going to learn today is something that Lama Allen calls Asanga's mindfulness of breathing. So Asanga was a Mahayana pandit of the 4th century, I believe. And he, so great Mahayana pandit. And so in his book, text, the Shravaka Bhumi, the Buddha in his earlier texts had outlined 16 stages of mindfulness that all lead ultimately to arhatship or to nirvana. And so there are several classical presentations. The Buddha described these, but he didn't go into detail about these. And there are several, or at least 2 really well-known classical presentations of these 16 stages of mindfulness that lead to nirvana, the arhatship. One is Buddhaghosa, a great Theravadan commentator of the 2nd century. And his path to purification is just really the most comprehensive text of the whole Theravadan tradition of commentary on the all of meditation practices presented by the Buddha. And so, and what we're going to be using a technique of Buddhaghosa, but primarily Asanga also commented on these 16 stages. And where they differ is in the 3rd stage of these 16 stages. So there's a very interesting distinction between Asanga of the Mahayana tradition and Buddhaghosa of the Theravadan tradition, describing this 3rd stage of the 16 stages of mindfulness. And this 3rd stage deals with breath meditation. And it says, the Buddha said, attending to the whole body of the breath, I breathe in and out. So this phrase, attending to the whole body of the breath, is the really critical phrase. And so Buddhaghosa interpreted that to mean, the Theravadan commentator interpreted that to mean that the whole body of the breath means the full course of the inhalation and the exhalation, just as we were doing it with our tactile sensations of the breath at the nose. The beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, the end of the breath, and etc. Just as like a child on a swing, the full course of the pendulum swing of a child on a swing. So this is what Buddhaghosa meant by interpreted the Buddha's instruction on attending to the whole body of the breath. I breathe in and breathe out. On the other hand, Asanga took the Buddha very literally and said, attending to the whole body, I breathe in and breathe out. And so Asanga then, so you can attend to the technique that we were working with before yesterday, and with intention, directing our attention to a particular place. So first of all, narrowing the scope of our attention to sound, tactile sensations, then tactile sensations of the breath, then narrowing the scope of our attention again to a particular target, to the abdomen or tactile sensations at the nose. So here at the nose, the attention is a gatekeeper. The attention doesn't move. The breath moves past the gatekeeper, going in and going out, but the attention doesn't move. It just stays there and notices the different sensations as the breath enters and leaves. So the attention is stable, still, in one place and focused. But Asanga said, awareness, because it is open, global, and receptive, rather than selective, exclusive, and focused, is aware of the entire body and notices tactile sensations of the breath wherever they occur in the body. So this is a very different experience of the breath, because you aren't looking for the breath in a particular spot. You are just letting the breath show up wherever it does. So this is a very relaxed way of meditating. It is effortless, because many people, I think, find that breath meditation is hard work. It can seem like that, because it can seem, and this is what we have to get over, but it can seem like an isometric exercise, mental concentration, like you're grasping to an object. This is not the way that it should be done, but I think this is a common experience. And so it can become fatiguing, and people may not enjoy that. Kind of like pushing an isometric exercise, pushing against the wall until your muscles start to tremble, as a way of strengthening or training your body. So some people think of concentration like that you just focus, until smoke comes out of your ears, and call this mental training. But so this awareness practice is easy, or simple anyway. And so you just are open and receptive, and you just know sensations of the breath wherever they occur in the body. And this has the beneficial effect also, again, if you give up all control of the breath, and you just let the body breathe itself, and you're not looking for the sensations of the breath in any one place, you may discover sensations of the breath in very surprising places. First of all, you're going to feel it probably in familiar places like the nose, the face, the movement of the lungs and the chest as it expands, the movement of the abdomen. But then you might feel it in really unusual places. If you're seated on a cushion, you might feel it in your seat. You might feel it in your back if you're in Shavasana, or your shoulders. And then as you progress through Shamata practice, you develop what Lama Allen calls qualitative vividness, meaning that you begin to feel sensations that were so subtle that they were formerly or earlier before in your practice that you couldn't recognize them because they were below this threshold of which you were capable of feeling them. But as your attention becomes more and more refined, you develop a qualitative vividness which allows you to feel more and more subtle sensations. And so as you feel these sensations, as you develop qualitative vividness, and you are practicing with Asanga's mindfulness of breathing, and open and receptive to appearances of the breath wherever they occur, you might find sensations of the breath in the palm of your hand, for instance, just because these are very subtle tactile sensations that of the movement of the breath as it enters and leaves your body. Now, another thing that you might experience as you develop this qualitative vividness is something that Lama or Asanga, Arya Asanga, emphasizes also as part of his technique, is knowing not only the movement of breath as tactile sensation, but knowing it as a movement or a fluctuation of prana. So does everybody know what prana refers to or what it means? Anybody? You don't? So prana is an energy in the body. And this is Lama Allen, in his approach to, because he's a physicist or very knowledgeable about physics, describes this very precisely as being physical but non-material. So in the same way that, and so there are other substances in the universe that are physical but non-material, such as electromagnetic radiation. So it is of this class of, just think of like radio waves or sunlight. So they're physical but non-material. They're not composed of elementary particles. So I suppose light would be composed in one way of elementary particles. But, think of it as electromagnetic radiation, but within the body. And so the theory in Buddhism, and especially in schools of Buddhism that deal with the subtle body. So in Tantra practice, which is a whole class called Vajrayana in Buddhism, there is a whole theory of the body that is based on the movement of this prana, of this subtle energy of the body, throughout channels that aren't physical channels, but they're just pathways that this energy flows through. So it's something like a nervous system and the movement of electrical impulses in the body, but it's much more subtle than that. And you're not going to, as you dissect the body, you're not going to find these pathways that the prana flows through, or you're not going to find prana actually detectable by meters that measure electricity. But one of the curious things or important things about the theory of prana in Tantra and in Buddhism is what is translated in English from the Tibetan as the thoughts and the winds ride in tandem. And so prana, and there is an entanglement, you could say, between thought and this energy. Dujam Lingpa describes this relationship as being like thought being a cripple, meaning somebody who is disabled and can't walk, and the prana being like a wild stallion or a wild steed, a wild horse. So the wild horse has no direction and has no ability to do anything but be energy and a mode of transportation. But the thought itself can't move without having some method of transport. So the two of these, as they become entangled then, are actually what produce our mental experience. So the very important result of recognizing that is that you can use an outside-in approach or an inside-out approach. You can work from the outside, meaning from the pranic approach, and use prana, the movement of prana, to influence your thoughts. And this is the whole path of Tantra is all about this. You consciously move prana throughout the body to specific places, through specific channels into specific chakras and nadi and bindus in the subtle body in order to influence thought and to produce realizations. So that's the outside-in approach, you could say. And you can also take the inside-out approach. You can use thought to move prana and use thoughts to move prana to the same places that you were taking with the outside-in approach, but now you're using thought, which is the inside-out approach, to move prana. But the net effect is the same. It's just the way that you are approaching it that is different. And so with this Asanga's method of mindfulness, of breathing, We are aware of the movement of the sensations of the breath, but we are also aware of the pranic effect of that movement. And so as you inhale, for instance, a very basic pranic effect is that you will likely notice a sense of invigoration. You feel a sense of more energy. And as you exhale, you notice with these sensations of the exhalation, a deepening of relaxation. So this is just a change of prana, of energy. And you can also feel sometimes in your body, as you are just openly, receptively meditating, you can feel agitated prana, turbulent prana. And you notice that that is correlated with your turbulent mind. And so you can try to calm the thoughts. That would be the inside-out approach. Or you can just release the turbulent prana, which would be the outside-in approach. So you can use both approaches simultaneously and have a very quick effect on calming the mind, calming the turbulence of the mind. So if you are resting in your best degree of samadhi and you feel as a tactile sensation the turbulent prana, you release it on the exhalation and you just release it into space. And and then you can also release individual thoughts that arise. So if we are trying to maintain our best stillness of awareness, so now we are not talking so much about stability of attention. Now we're talking about stillness of awareness. And the difference, so awareness is naturally still. When we talk about the natural state of the mind, it is a luminous knowing, and this natural state of the mind is able to illuminate appearances without becoming them. So the awareness is naturally still, and it is not set in motion by the movement of appearances that arise. The way that still awareness is set in motion is by grasping to these appearances that arise. So as long as just awareness illuminates these appearances and simply allows them to arise without preferring that they be different, meaning that if they're pleasant appearances, our natural tendency is to grasp onto them and wish that they would stay. If they're unpleasant appearances, our natural tendency is to push them away. But that pushing away is also a form of grasping onto them, because it is not just letting a mental appearance arise, abide, and dissolve. So these prana then can be released on the breath to calm the mind. Individual thoughts that arise can be released on the exhalation as well. All part of the practice of asangas, mindfulness of breathing. And so when we are doing asangas, mindfulness of breathing, what we are doing is really allowing the illuminating nature of awareness to fill the entire body. It's as if the entire space of the body is aware. And allow that illuminating awareness simply to be aware of sensations wherever they occur in the body. So it's really a very simple practice, but leads to one of the great benefits of it is that it is very soothing, very relaxing. There is no effort involved in it, the effort of maintaining a focus on a single object. It is just being open and receptive. But there are challenges involved, but you'll discover those as you go. So that's really all there is to say about the method. And so why don't we just go right into meditation? Begin as always by discovering the natural state of the body. This natural state begins with a state of relaxed ease. And if I tell you to relax the body, that may sound as if I am telling you to do something. But it is just the opposite. I'm asking you to stop doing. Stop doing by releasing the effort that is required to maintain tension. Tension that is fueled by anxiety or hypervigilance or emotional residues. Allow your awareness to just roam throughout the body on the lookout for tension. And wherever you discover this tension, and as you progress, you will discover more and more subtle degrees of tension. Allow that tension to breathe, bring the breath to itself. And then release that tension on the exhalation into space. and settle the speech in its natural state. Based on this relaxation of the body, discover the effortless silence of the natural state of speech. And part of this natural state of speech includes the breath settled in its natural state. And you discover that by giving up all control of the breath, letting the body breathe itself. And settle the mind in its natural state. The natural state of the mind is awareness that illuminates appearances but does not become them. It is clear and knowing. It rests in the present moment. Free of the distractions that move it to the past or the future. And now, if your eyes are open, close them. And allow this awareness to illuminate the sense field of sound. And simply be aware of sound without focusing on any particular sound. Just be open and receptive. In this open and receptive awareness, there is no naming or identifying individual sounds. And now bring that same spacious, open awareness that you practiced with sound to the experience of the body. And let this illuminating awareness fill the entire body, as if the entire body itself were aware. And simply be aware of tactile sensations wherever they arise. With this open receptive awareness, there is no naming, no labeling, no comparing with memories of previous sensations. There is only the present moment of sensation. And as you attend to tactile sensations, the ones that you may become aware of most easily are the sensations that change as the breath enters and leaves your body. Attending to the whole body of the breath. Breathe in and breathe out. And you can use both Buddhaghosa and Asanga's interpretation. By attending to the full course of the inhalation and exhalation. Attending with continuous engagement. So that just as with our breath meditation at the nose, you know the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, and the end of the breath. And discover a pause at the end of each breath. In and out. So you know the full course of the inhalation and exhalation with continuous engagement. But your open receptive awareness is not focused on any single spot in the body. Wherever appearances arise, whether in the face, the chest, the back, let this keep your awareness continually engaged. With the sensations of the breath through the full course of the breath. And with your still and spacious, open and receptive awareness, you may notice what feels like movement of energy, prana, throughout the body. And these movements of prana are related to the movement of the breath in and out of the body. You may notice an invigoration of this energy with the inhalation. And a deepening of relaxation with the exhalation. And this is felt as an energetic difference. Thoughts and mental images will continue to arise. Just let them. Let them be and let them go. If you don't engage with them, they naturally dissolve. While your awareness remains continually engaged with the full course of the inhalation and exhalation. So there is less new information today, or this morning anyway, and more time to practice. So we'll have a bonus session of 3 silent gatakas this morning before lunch. And then as you practice these silent gatakas, you have a choice of any of the types of meditation that we have done so far. The breath meditation using attention focused on either the abdomen or the nostrils. Remember that the importance of intention for directing your attention. Or you have the choice of just luxuriating in this very soothing practice of Asanga's mindfulness of breathing. But try as you're doing these practices, some of you are still having an issue with movement throughout the meditation. So try to remain still through the entire session. Don't give in to the impulse to scratch and itch or compulsive movements. And you will notice a difference in the stillness of your mind if you just watch an impulse arise and it leave without your having to do anything about it. And then all of your neighbors will be appreciative also of your being still, because it can be very distracting. Peripheral vision takes in the entire room. So especially when I'm looking at all of you, if anybody moves, I notice. So enjoy your practice this morning.